Welcome to the Risk Never Sleeps podcast, part two of the episode with Elevsis Delgadillo of KeenStack. So let me ask you, when you think about the next 12 to 24 months, what are some of your key initiatives? What are you thinking about from a business perspective?
So one of the things that we're really working on, kind of trying to bring forward and I think educate the marketplace, because this is one thing that I did learn, is that I had operated platforms like ServiceNow for years, and like I said, Salesforce. I didn't really fully appreciate or understand what I was operating. And this kind of comes back to I had written an article a while back around portfolio management because I feel like that becomes such a an unknown issue within IT organizations where you own all of these products, but
Mm-hmm.
you really don't understand what they do in totality. And so
Mm-hmm.
when new solutions come in or new needs come in, maybe you end up buying a product, but you already had a solution within your four walls. So to answer your question around, I think that's an area where, again, having come into a pure play ServiceNow organization, I've had the opportunity to really understand how broad the ServiceNow platform is, the agentic AI capabilities that they've kind of put as an underlying theme across all of their capabilities. And really, it's helping organizations that either operate ServiceNow today but have not maximized the utility of it. So they're paying a high premium for an expensive product at times, but
Mm-hmm.
they're using 50% of what they
Mm-hmm.
actually procured. And they got 10 other applications that are doing that. There's an opportunity to rationalize things out of their portfolio and move over to a one standardized platform.
Mm-hmm.
And so really it's starting to, and or organizations that don't have it at all and are operating, 15 different SaaS products, they're lean on their IT budgets. And how do you actually go skill and resource people to work across Azure, AWS, all the, 10 different products? How do you really navigate that space? And so the objective for me is really to have meaningful conversations with IT leaders, business leaders within healthcare organizations to help them better understand
Mm-hmm.
the utility of the platform.
Now, are you pure services or do you provide additional tech on top of ServiceNow?
So we are a pure play ServiceNow provider, integrator, reseller. However, I think the thing that we've done, and I can't mention the client's name, but just recently we were building out a proposal for a client, and it was very obvious that what they were trying to displace a product that they had bought that they were running in their organization, to kind of handle a lot of their IT operational activities. And one of the areas, really, ServiceNow wasn't a good fit there. So we brought in another third party that sits within like the ServiceNow marketplace that
Mm-hmm.
extends out that capability. Now, you could have just said we were going to go sell you five more ServiceNow products and we would kind of get you to 80% of what you need. But again, being an operator, kind of the way we kind of, we operate is that we said, well, no, like honestly, you're going to do better using this small piece of ServiceNow and then bringing in just these smaller components of other
Mm.
third parties in order to kind
Yeah.
of accomplish your overarching objective.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I think that's really my role, is to help organizations that are, I mean, again, I don't know if you've seen what's happening, but with the Medicare and Medicaid cuts that are coming, I think a lot of health systems are really starting to look really deep to figure out how they can cut costs and
Mm-hmm.
kind of deal with these headwinds that are inbound. A lot of that tends to come out of, technology and technology solutions, technology resources, because you really can't cut the clinical side. That's the product.
Right.
So I think a lot of organizations have products like ServiceNow within their ecosystem. They need to make better use of them
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or consolidate them, like you said.
or
Um,
consolidate them.
yeah. But there's the flip side of the consolidation, we saw this with Change Health, is if you put too much consolidation on one platform, on one product, on one
Yeah,
vendor, right?
yeah,
So how do
yeah.
you, again, on one hand, you want to service organizations with the right stack. On another hand, if you consolidate too much, that's never really a good thing either, right?
I think uh that is already like you think about like Epic, Oracle, Cerner. I
Yeah.
mean, the consolidation has already occurred, and that you don't have a lot of, you have a major technology issue, with your EHR and you're in downtime procedures. And I think
Yeah.
that I've seen a lot of executives really focus on um uh, I guess it's kind of planetary technologies, I guess you could say, because what creates risk is the stitching together of a lot of one-off bespoke technologies. That to me, at least from my perspective, is where the vast majority of risk kind of was generated, is that when you have 10 different applications and you're trying to stitch them all together, that's where you end up having data continuity issues, integration issues. The
Hmm.
more you can keep yourself to basically, an EHR, like an Epic, a Workday, a Salesforce, a ServiceNow, those kind of planetary type platforms,
Mm.
obviously, Azure, AWS. I believe personally that you have less risk within your enterprise because you have less stitching together to do, but
Mm.
also you can be much more aggressive with how you architect those solutions in order to provide high availability where you need it. When you got 20 of them, trying to produce your high availability architectures becomes really complicated and
Yeah.
costly. So I don't disagree with you. I think it's, you
Yeah.
know,
Until you have a CrowdStrike outage and you take down the
until you
airlines,
I
right?
until you have a crowd, but I think that's always going to be,
Mm.
out there.
Yeah.
One way or the other. I think you're just kind of picking your poison. Death by a thousand paper cuts, or
Mm.
you have one big system. Like, I don't know how many outage Microsoft had while I was working in my infrastructure role that impacted services globally. But again,
Mm.
it it it, it I mean,
The other risk is moving forward, right? And innovating. And so if you get tied down to one decision, one platform, over time, you run the risk of never innovating because you're tethered to that platform. And so if the
yeah,
platform vendor isn't um, putting their old legacy out of business, if you will, eating their young, as it's
yeah.
often phrased, right? Then you don't move forward either. So there's the risk of that, and that's happened throughout the history of technology. So what do you think? How do you manage against that, and how do you ensure that the vendor you've selected isn't going to put you into that innovative dilemma over time?
It's a it's a catch-22 because I feel like organizations are filled with the carcasses of old technologies,
Mm,
right? That
yeah,
never managed to innovate themselves out of a box.
yeah.
And so, working past that, I mean, it's really hard to have a crystal ball in that space because
Mm.
again, if you think about but then again, I think picking the companies that have the right aptitude. What is it? Salesforce just acquired uh who was it they just acquired? The data company, Informatica, right? I,
Yeah.
I I feel like you look at, not that I'm a huge fan of Salesforce, but again, I mean they
Another
had
another example of a platform that
yeah,
is everything to everybody, and you know, it could be Siebel in 1990. Like it's
no, it absolutely could. But where they don't feel like they can make headway, where they
Mm.
can't win, they seem to be acquiring.
Yeah,
Uh,
and those are also challenges. Stitching together those acquisitions is also a lot harder than people realize. Um,
So, yeah, one thing on that though, I think so. One of the things after spending like 10 years, actually at Banner Health and then prior to that in healthcare, the one thing that I noticed is that, um, and I hope these things don't get me in trouble for saying saying
well,
them, but
don't,
it's just
don't
my
we can cut it out if you're
no,
not.
no, no, but it's just but no, but I think it's a relevant perspective, and
Yeah,
I talk
yeah.
about this all the
Mm.
time. In that I feel like HR organizations really do a great job at recruiting clinicians, and they understand the difference between a primary care physician and a
Mm-hmm.
neurologist.
Mm-hmm.
They have that down in spades. They know
Mm-hmm.
exactly how they acquire, what the talent looks like.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about the difference between a .NET engineer and a cloud architect or a DevOps architect, they have no idea that those types of
Apples and pizza.
but they don't and healthcare organizations aren't tuned to actually recruit, staff, and retain
Yeah.
that level of talent. And so you have to ask yourself, if I'm going to go invest in a bunch of
Mm.
one-off technologies, there's a human risk, right, to running
Mm.
a lot of
That's a
different.
great point. That's a really solid point right there. Which
Yeah,
is, yeah, because you're right. And I was hoping we were going to go this way. There's this holy trinity everyone talks about: people, process,
yeah,
technology, right? And what we find is that people talk about it, but they actually don't act upon it. And
yeah.
what are your thoughts? What do you see as regards in regards to that?
In that to me was literally the people part was one of the toughest part in healthcare, and why I really tried to drive a lot of consolidation, because what I saw early on was that I can't I can't build teams that are capable or competent enough to operate the technologies that are needed. Specifically, I had network and firewall technologies where I
Mm-hmm.
was at previously,
Mm-hmm.
and the amount of rapid innovation, well, number one, the escalation of the threats in those spaces were one thing, but two, the type of skill that you needed to operate those technologies, especially when you start getting into complex things like network segmentation
Yeah.
and even a lot of, like, again, I talk about the SASE stuff, but that's really an amalgam of a lot of services brought up into
Mm-hmm.
cloud infrastructure. The skill sets are completely different, especially, even with cloud infrastructure versus legacy on-prem infrastructures. You know, moving the people, they see these new technologies at times as a threat to the way they've existed for the last 10 or 15 years. And
I am with you on
and
this point.
and as much as you want to, as a leader, to
Mm.
help incentivize them and motivate them to say, hey, we're heading in this direction, you might tell them a year in advance, we need to start upskilling. We need to start, changing the way we do our work. Like, why are we not using Ansible, right, for managing infrastructure provisioning and configuration? Like, but there's almost this there's almost like this mentality of you're moving my cheese, right? Like, you can't do this to me. Like, you're changing the job that I've done so well for all these
Hmm.
years. Look at all the I'm an exceptional performer year over
Yeah.
year. It is a very tough it
And they
is a
take it people take it personally. It's like you're
I
you're you're throwing technology at a problem that I've been focused on my whole career. Are you saying I'm doing a bad job?
Yeah, I mean, it was so. I mean, again, this is one of the reasons also why I kind of wanted to kind of change, paths. I kind of I kind of came into my, infrastructure job asking a lot of questions around, for example, from endpoint management side, why do we have tech benches where we're repairing endpoints at facilities when we have incredibly talented VARs and we have a lot of refurbished inventory? We could just swap devices, right? And ship them back out, send the hardware to the VAR, let them repair it. They're skilled at it. I've seen how fast and how
Yeah.
talented they are at doing that. Also, how do I start making more work self-service so it doesn't even come to the don't have to feel like they need to call Joe, the IT guy on floor 2, in order to get a problem solved. They can get it done just as fast by a couple clicks on their computer. That type of I kind of came into the job asking all these questions around why we do these things this way. And what ended up happening is that I got a tremendous amount of backlash from the organization, from my own team, saying,
Hmm.
"Oh no, so much so that I actually started getting death threats, believe it or not." So yeah, I
Oh
mean,
no, I've seen it all. I see it on Reddit. People are
uh,
slamming their bosses on Reddit. Um,
um, and, and I learned a lot about how to negotiate. Again, I've always believed in this transparency, share the vision, share where you're headed, so
Hmm.
people have the opportunity to get on board. But again, it's one of those things where I've always wanted to move the needle quickly, because I don't
Yeah.
believe that, by the time, if you go too slow, the goalpost has moved by the time you get there. But I really believe that you have to have quality change management. You have to have leaders that truly can articulate the message to the frontline team members,
Mm,
to let them know that they're going to be okay. Like, this is not about taking your job away. This is
right.
about creating a healthier
Yeah.
organization that can sustain longer. And they tend not to believe VPs and executives,
Mm,
but they have better relationships with their directors and their management teams.
yeah.
If you can get to the hearts and souls of your frontline managers and show them that you're really out for the win-win, I believe culturally you can start to do the right thing. And I learned that lesson. I learned that lesson at, in my previous job at Banner Health. I think it really transformed the type of person that I am and the way that I can provide, like, even services now. Because again, go implement ServiceNow, agentic AI, and you can say all this to an executive, but if you don't really help them articulate the how and how to negotiate the change management within your organization,
Yeah.
you'll never get the
Mm.
adoption
The,
and the value
the
out of that.
culture will revolt.
Will revolt 100%. And so
Yeah.
I think that goes, I don't know if I answered your question,
You
to be
did.
honest.
No, this is, and I could talk for hours on this topic because it's so relevant to what we see. Maybe I'll have you back. We'll talk about it. We're running out of time, and I do want to get to a couple more questions. So let me pivot. Let me ask you questions about you. You could go back in time and see your 20-year-old self. What would you tell him?
So, I honestly believe that the one thing that has benefited me the most in my later years has been patience. Um,
Mm,
I have not been a patient person throughout the early parts of my career. But the catch 22 is I've also gotten to where I am today because I wasn't patient. So I don't I think about, do I give myself that advice, and then I wind up, scooping ice cream at
yeah, I
Baskin
was
Robbins,
gonna
like
say that. Flipping
like,
burgers. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not that there's anything wrong with
Nothing wrong with it.
that, because
Nothing.
I
Yeah.
do love
It's,
Baskin Robbins, and
yeah.
I'll have myself,
Uh,
at least two of
mhm.
the 31 flavors. Um, but I do think that patience has been one thing, and then I think the
Mhm.
other thing is I'm a much better listener. I think as I moved into leadership,
Yeah.
there's one thing to want to be heard and want to speak, but as I transitioned into leadership roles, I think I wish I would have honed my listening skills,
Mm.
and not hearing, but like truly,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, but like
Yeah.
listening to what people
Yeah.
have to say, making sure people feel like they've been heard,
Yeah.
and that they're part of the process. I definitely would have suggested that um, to my younger self. Honestly, I could keep going. Like, I feel like, even personally and family wise, I worked so much and so hard to help build a career. My
Yeah.
kids are, 13, sorry, 4. See, there I go, right?
Oh, you're in trouble
Yeah,
now. I do the same
yeah.
thing. I have three daughters, and I always get their ages wrong.
14, 13, and 10. And,
Oh,
just in the last few years, I've really started to, like, really be super engaged with them,
yeah.
and
Present.
present much, because I'm
Mm.
starting to value that more as they're getting
Yeah.
older. And
Amen.
I really wish I would have done that. But I think that all just kind of comes to me kind of evolving myself as a person.
Mhm. Yeah.
And yeah, I've learned a lot out over the
You and I
years.
are very similar. I wouldn't go back and really change much either. I might tell myself like, don't do that stupid thing you did that got you arrested, like, or something like that, right? But
Yeah.
outside of healthcare and IT in particular, what are you most passionate about? What would you be doing if you weren't doing this?
So actually, I just had this conversation with my wife the other day. I honestly really love educating. So
Hmm.
I kind of went to a startup as a partially because I felt like there was a lot of opportunity to drive value in healthcare. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, personally, I felt like if this went well, Um, I would love to be a school teacher. I love science.
Hmm.
I love history. If I, I feel like in the next, 10 years, if I can say, you know what, I can stop doing this and I can go and, work in the public school system as a high school teacher, that would really be something that I would be passionate about. I love doing homework with my kids. I love kind of explaining things to them. One of my favorite books as a kid was called The Way Things Work. I don't know if you've ever
Oh,
seen that.
I did it. I read that. That's a
Yeah,
great book.
it's a great book, and I was fascinated by it. You
Me
know what I
too.
mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, of
so
course.
I just feel like everyone should
Yeah.
have someone that can be a catalyst for
Yeah.
them to help
Yeah.
them kind of achieve what they can. And I just it's something that I've always wanted to do.
Unfortunately, it might be a classroom full of AI teachers
Oh my gosh,
at that
I know.
time.
I
I mean,
know.
actually, yeah. All right. So let me just keep going because I'll get distracted. What's this is the Risk Never Sleeps podcast. I have to ask you this question. What's the riskiest thing you've ever done?
The riskiest thing I've ever done. Well, you know, I I think one of the riskiest things I had ever done in my career, well, personally, was probably leaving, I think, a very stable, secure job with a great organization, great leadership, and coming into a startup because I really wanted to drive something different. I wanted it to be super tangible for me,
Mm,
and I,
mm,
I feel like for me. But I would say the other thing early on in my career, I again, right, wrong, or indifferent, but we talked about the culture change. I brought in certain managed services in certain areas where an organization had never done that before,
mm-hmm,
and it was not only one of the best decisions that I had made because number one, it was almost like you do some light pruning, but the tree grew back so much healthier
mm-hmm,
in the long haul. But at the time, it was one of the riskiest things I did because we needed the skill set to move the organization and we
mm-hmm.
needed to move it fast.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was the right thing. I told my wife that if this doesn't go well, I'm going to be unemployed in short order.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know
But you
what?
took a risk. It's good.
It
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
took a
You
risk. It
have to
was the
take
right. It
risks.
was it
Yeah.
was the right decision. You know.
Yeah. Share a fun fact about you that many people may not know.
Oh man, a fun fact about me. There's a lot of
Well, it
boring
could be
facts.
unfun
Yeah,
or
yeah.
not fun. Banal.
um,
Share a banal fact about you that.
you know what? I I really love watching like I love watching cartoon movies with my kids, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll go and I don't tell them, because I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to go take the kids to go watch this Disney movie." The secret is I love them just as much as they do, if not more. So,
What's the
like
latest one out? Lilo and Stitch? Is that the one what's the one that's
so
no,
the
that's
the
not
one
right.
the
That's
one
not
that's
right.
on the docket for me
Yeah.
is Elio. It's like the
Oh,
new like
yeah,
Elio, Pixar one. So
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
funny. I'll be like I'll mention to my son. I'm like, hey, because just so you know, he's disabled, but I'll mention to him, hey, you want to go to the movie? You know that new movie Elio's out, and then he'll be like, oh, and he's like, hey, let's go watch Elio, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I
Good
haven't. Oh,
idea.
great idea. Like, great idea. I can't let them know that like this stuff is coming from me. You know what I
You're
mean?
up at 1 a.m. watching Adult Swim, right? Like I watch the cartoons too. Family Guy. You watch Family Guy or
I did
American
what
Dad or any of those?
I did. Yeah, I mean, I've been we definitely there's bingeable content at night.
Yeah.
I've gone through like the Seinfelds, the Curb Your Enthusiasms,
Oh, Curb. Yeah, so great.
and I just started. I've never watched this. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
I've
so
never seen that. Is it good?
You know what? I think it's an acquired taste.
Okay.
I think it's it's funny. I just think I think they've been on the air for like 15 years.
Yeah.
The stuff, and you see the similar things with Seinfeld. What
Yeah.
they the Some of the content they put
Yeah.
out there 10 years ago
Yeah.
would not necessarily
Not
fly.
today.
Not
Not today.
today. Not today.
That's like the old Mel Brooks movies. You can't watch
Yeah, yeah.
those today.
Oh
Like
no, 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 you
you
can't.
could
So it'd
never
be like,
produce Blazing Saddles today.
yeah, no, no, it is very much that in the
Yeah.
sitcom
Yeah.
world.
Oh my God, it's great. You're on a desert island. What 5 records or albums would you bring with you?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna Happy Gilmore from a movie.
Hmm.
Probably gonna bring Incubus,
Oh, Incubus. Okay.
Sublime.
Oh,
Sublime is a
Sublime.
good
Yeah.
is a
Have you
good one.
seen them in concert?
I had well, I never the original Sublime.
Yeah.
I think the lead singer passed before they
Yes,
even started
that's right.
touring, but
Yeah.
I have seen the with Rome.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
that yeah, so I have gone to a concert live, and that's a whole story by itself. And that you go to that concert and you're like, wow, like I didn't realize, like is the venue on fire? And
I
it's like
know. I know.
it's like
I'm
is,
surrounded by smoke.
should there be, is there a fire department here somewhere? Because
I
it
know.
sounds like someone's has a bonfire, and you realize
So,
it's not that. It's just,
it's
it's just
so fun.
all
It's
the people in the
weed.
crowd. Yeah.
It's Soylent Green. It's people.
Yeah, exactly. So, but
That's
yeah,
so good.
um,
Uh,
and honestly, I really love like the Christopher Nolan movies, so I probably would
oh
have to
yeah.
take like an Inception or
Yeah, yeah.
something like that with me,
Inception's
or
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
just to kind of balance out the Happy Gilmore. I could just watch them one after the other to
Yeah.
kind of keep
Yeah.
having like to keep the emotional arc rolling along,
Yeah, to laugh and then be just
like blown
get
away.
blown
Yeah,
away.
maybe
What
my dog Skip if I need to cry.
yeah, now you mentioned you love history. Are you reading any interesting books or
Yeah, you know what, the last book that I you can laugh about this, but I read two books when I kind of left and kind of came into this role. One was called Super Communicators. Such a good book. I think it really helped me understand the different types of conversations that people have. So I would
hmm
recommend that one. And then the other one I read was Fanatical Prospecting. And you know what? It was
fanatical prospecting? Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
no, because
That's awesome, dude.
it's relevant. But
That's great.
I'm learning. I'm the marketing product IT guy that is reading the
Oh,
Fanatical
yeah.
Prospecting book. So
That's a
uh,
startup, the life of a startup. How many
yeah.
folks are there today, like roughly? Are you over 50
Uh,
people or
I believe we're about 40 people.
yeah.
20, 25, 30 are in India, and then we have the remaining sitting within the U.S. But we think that healthcare is really an underserved market, especially with like the ServiceNow and the ServiceNow products as a whole.
Yeah.
Because again, you might just have a lot of them had, baseline implementations. You would have had someone that came from financial services or manufacturing and said, we're going to implement IT service management or IT operations. But healthcare organizations are not the same as a manufacturing organization or as a financial services organization. The customers are different, right? The people are different, and what they do is
Yeah.
different. So I think having organizations that have that um, uh, kind of like that muscle memory of having understanding how healthcare organizations work, payers, providers.
hmm
I think it makes a difference. I think you get better outcomes from your
Awesome.
implementations.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we're gonna end there. Thank you so much. This has been incredible. We went a full hour. I mean, I could talk to you all day. Any last comments before we wrap this up?
No, I was great. It was great. I didn't know where the conversation was going to
Yeah.
go. But I'm really what this is. I feel like I try to represent who KeenStack is culturally as a
Oh, you
company,
did. Yeah,
and
absolutely. Yeah, and
yeah.
if
So
folks are looking for help with ServiceNow, KeenStack, check this company out.
it was a pleasure.
Alexis, a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for sharing your story with us. This is Ed Gaudet from the Risk Never Sleeps podcast. And if you're on the front lines, protecting patient safety and delivering patient care, remember to stay vigilant because risk never sleeps.